Hello and welcome to part 2 of this this bush. The model number eludes me, the AU31D. So this is this desktop. We're going to make this into a desktop bench amp. If you watch part 1, this is an extension amplifier for a Bush record player. It's early 60s, and I've got the record player as well. We're not just going to restore this as a record player amp. We're going to turn this into a little desktop guitar amplifier. So watch part 1 if you before you watch this one, if you wish to. That'll give you a bit more insight into what we're doing with this. So the first thing we're going to do with this is get the chassis out of this case, which looks rather awkward. So we've got 3 screws there, and if we turn it around and we look at the back, you can see that this piece of wood here is fastened in either side. We've got screws here which indicates, and we've got screws there which indicates this goes out from through the front. We'll need to remove that as well. We'll need another screwdriver for that. So that's the first thing we're going to do is remove this from the chassis. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug it back in again, and I'm going to take some readings. So that's come off there. Okay. Stripping this down is a little bit tricky. Now you can see there we've got in, you can see a rather grubby looking capacitor there. Heel have shot it. It's a bit rusty there. Is that a bit rusty? Yeah, it is there. If we just hone that up so you can see it. Yeah, so it looks like it's been somewhere damp at some point there, according to that. So we'll just pop that and those screws that we've got, we'll just pop them in there. So we've got that part off there. And you can see now that that's loose already, so we should be able to get to that from this side. And look, that just popped some nuts there, so we'll just drop that in. It looks like they had nuts on the other side. Very strange. So, oh, that's already dropped out, look, because it's on, they just hook over. Right, I see. We've got that there. Now if I undo these screws here, that should drop the actual chassis part out of there, and the job will be a squirrel. You see it's very grubby in here as well. It's this has been somewhere where there's been a lot of dust. Oh. Just come back to that screw later. It's not playing ball. Now, there is a schematic for this. I think you just use the record player one, because the amplifier is identical. From bits and bobs I have been reading. That's a very odd screw. I'm not sure what's happened to that. Oh, let's see what's on the other side. There's a nut on the other side, that's why. The nuts on all the others then? Yeah, the nuts are on the chassis. You can't really see what I'm doing there, can you? That's good, they've all gone in there. Now will that come out? Right, we need to just remove that that cable tie there, cable grip. Let's try this screwdriver on that. Ah, that's most excellent. Let's see if that will allow us to get that out now. Oh, our friend the... oh yes, there's some more screws there. So we need to remove him as well. Will we need to loosen? No, he's got to come right out. I'm not sure whether we're going to use that or not. Look at putting a jack socket in there. And then this item here, we're not quite sure what this does. We'll have to investigate it. I think we may be out, and we are out. Right, so that's got that out, and we can see a bit clearer now what we've actually got there. It's a shade on the resty side. It's as if it's had some, looks like it's had some moisture poured into it at some point. It's very grabby in here, isn't it? There's the pilot light, which if I remember, I'm not sure whether that actually pilots or not. And then we've got the two tubes here, these two mullards. Excellent. Now what I am looking for, and I think that's it there on the corner, is on there, I think that is the rectifier, I'm guessing. So that is the first thing. So what we're going to do is plug this in, and we're going to plug it into the variac. And we've had this running before, so we know it runs, but I just want to know what voltage is going in it. You all lot are all sat there saying, it's a fuse, you plonker, it's a fuse. I've just hooked on there. It's got it's upside down, it's a fuse. So that must be a current limiter bulb on there. That's interesting. That's what that is. It's a current limiter bulb. Duh. Right, we seem to... So we've got this running, we've got 116 volts going through it. I'm just going to put it up to 235 on the variac, like so. Now then, we are going to connect on with the meter, and it's just got tangled up round there. So we're going to have some more nuts here and bolt washers that's come out. We'll put those in there. Let's see where we're going to connect on then. That's nice and shiny there, so we'll use that for ground. Let's get my pliers. It's getting a bit tired, these probes. There we go. Right. I think what I'm just going to do is turn this off and spin it round so we can see a bit more what we're doing now. Put the voltage back into it with the variac. Oh. Right, so if we just get that, just move this camera across. Right, I've got 200 and change that back, 235 going in, and I've only got 68 volts there. Let's go on the other side. Only 61. Oh, so that's telling us we've got a problem. It's rather strange then why this current limiter bulb isn't glowing. If it was fused, we wouldn't have any power. Yep, so you can see we've got power there, without a doubt, but something is not right there, because I'd expect a lot more than 56 volts on those nodes. We've got 62 on that one. So something's pulling the voltage down. Let's just have a look on here. So I'm just looking on, it's drawing 115 milliamps, and obviously that includes the variac. 120 milliamps, just get that set right. 122 milliamps, and we have got 65 volts on there, so something's very, very wrong with that. So it looks like that selenium rectifier is tainted. I think what we'll do now is we'll turn off and we'll take the valves out. They're not that warm at all. I need to test those anyway. Right, let's switch on now and see what we've got. So still only got 126 on there, you can see 127-ish. So and you can tell the way that's creeping up. Something's not quite right. So somewhere the voltage is being pulled down. Could that be the capacitor? Right, that's been off 3 or 4 minutes, and you can see still holding voltage pretty well, that capacitor, and that's why you have to make sure you discharge them before you start handling them. That's only 57, 60 odd volts we had. We did have 128 on there. That'll still give you a bit of a nip when it's around over 100 volts. That's going down. So we need to remove that selenium rectifier. Right, so we've taken out this Plessy cap, which incidentally says Feb 64 on it, this 5050, and I've just tacked in a couple of 33s at a 350 volts, and we're just going to test, and I think that capacitor's blue, and if you look, we've got 102 volts on the variac, and those tubes are beginning to conduct. Let's see if we're correct. So we've got 235 now on the variac. So that is, now they are beginning to conduct. The reason I changed this is because it was feeling a bit warm. So no. So I think from that we can deduce that rectifier is shot, because I know we should have more voltage than that. I think we should have around 220 volts on there, so I think we can say that's tainted. So that's the first job, is removing that. Right, we're going to test these tubes. These are ECL86 tubes, so they're a pentode with a single triode. These are Mullards, as you can see. So this tube tester will just give me an idea if the cathode is depleted and if there's any shorts on it. It's not an extensive tester, but it's good enough just for finding out whether these tubes are bin fodder or not. Hopefully they're not. So we've got 5E1 on there, settings for the first one, and we need, just get all these set back, and we need 7 on there on test. Now we need to switch on the so this valve tester, tube tester, is 110 volts, so it runs off a transformer, because of course I'm here in Blighty with 240 volts. So we've got that switched on. Let's see what we get. Oh, look at that. Yes, that's excellent. As you can see there, that's straight up to almost 90. So let's check. Now I don't know whether that is the pentode or the triode, because it doesn't actually say in here. So we need 2 now to test the other side. Is either the, so look. Yeah, that's very good. So that's a good tube. And to be fair, I'd expect these to be in good order, because only being in a record player at a much lower voltage than these are capable of, unless it had been used for hours and hours and hours on end, I'd expect these to be pretty good. Which one will be dud now? This one will be dud. Actually no, that's pretty good. And when that's warmed up, it'll go past 80. You can see that's on 80 there. Let's try the other side. 7. Yeah, that's just a bit loose in the socket there. And that's, look at that, that's over 90. You don't often see that. Generally, I generally only see tubes go above 90 when they're on, that's the heater kicking in, which has just dropped that down. Generally only see tubes above 90 when they're Mullards, really old ones like this. Some of these tubes, you know, they really were the best, because I've bought, you know, brand new JJs and things, and they'll get up to about 80, 85. But look at that. So those tubes are in fantastic condition and are ideal for our project. Now what we've got here is 2 pentodes and 2 triodes, because there's a triode and a pentode in each bottle. I need to find the schematic, but I'm guessing that one of these triodes is the phase inverter, phase splitter, and the other one is the gain stage. And the gain stages on these tubes are of a gain factor of 100, as like an ECC83. So basically what we've got there is we've got an amplifier in push-pull, and we've got a triode for the phase inverter, and then a single triode for the gain. I don't know whether we'll need another gain stage for this amp, because bearing in mind that there's only been 70 volts going through the plates of these, and when we tested it before we did get some sound out of it. We might be all right, because we were looking at getting another trying to get another tube socket onto this chassis, which is tricky. We've tacked in just a single diode in there, disconnected that selenium thing, we presume it's selenium, and 215 volts it says on the schematic at the plate. Not sure if those tubes they are beginning to conduct. Yes, and things seem much more livelier now. So there we go. I'll just get that. That's 235 now on the Variac. 221 volts now we've got. So that's rectifier is definitely tated. So we've got that. So what I've done there is I've tacked in the diode, which I'll just put another light on so we've got a bit more juice owner. So you can see the diode there that I've tacked in on there, and I've got a couple of capacitors off here that I've got on there, just a couple of 33s. You can see we've got 220, 221 on the Variac, sorry, on the B Plus there, and it said 215 on the schematic. So bearing in mind we've put that solid state diode in there, that's got the B Plus spot on. And you can see now we've got a lot more gain now on that than we had when we tested it the first time. So that's excellent. So we've got that sorted, so we know that works. So the power supply is really the main problem on this amp. Remember, we don't need a massive amount of gain on this, it's just a little desktop amp. So the power supply really is the biggest thing on this. Once we've got that sorted out, it's just a matter of checking a few resistors and then creating a decent input stage for it, which then should give us a bit more gain as well. We shall have to have a look at that input stage on the schematic that we've got now and just see what sort of layout they've got for that. We've put the rectifier in, and we've put a 50 plus 50 cap in there, which we actually found in the drawer. We got some of those, and that's fitted in there perfectly. Just monitoring the heater voltages at 6.4, 6.39, 235 volts, so they're fine, absolutely spot on. We've got 251 volts now. It said 215 on that schematic, so with the new diode and that capacitor in there, we've got just a little bit more, and that's good because those tubes will handle that voltage no problem. They're good up to 300 volts on the pentode and the triode, and the triodes won't have that much on anyway. It'll only be the plates and the screens, so there's no problem with that, and that has been an absolute success. It's as quiet as a mouse, but if we give the old input a poke, you can see it's got lots more juice owner than it had before when we tested it in part 1 video. You can see the diode is down there which is on that connector strip there, on that tag strip. So that's it, that's the power supply sorted out. Now the only things left to do on this now, oh, and I've removed the tweeter that was there, which has left us a possible space for another speaker. Now I don't think we'll be able to, because I think that's where the valves will fall. Now I normally, on these record player projects, I normally use some different speakers called Visitrons, and they're only 3-inch, but they are really good speakers. However, we've got 2 issues with that. One is I'm not sure if there's enough depth on this. There may be, and I've not got one of those in stock to check. But also I've got the output transformer fastened onto there, which means we may be able to keep that bracket, because that bracket's fastened onto there, and take the speaker off and put another speaker in should we need to. Those speakers handle about 30 watts RMS, in spite of how small they are, and they really do sound good. If I put one of those in this amplifier, it would sound better than the Celestion, but we may leave the Celestion in, we may not. We've got to think about that. and really when this is finished, it's what it's actually going to sound like. So the next thing we've got to do on here is sort out the front end where the input goes in. Need to check that on the schematic. In fact, if we have a look at the schematic, I'm just going to take one of these lights out so it if we look on the schematic there, you can see, let's just check. Just put something on so I can see it better. So if we come in close there, you can see there's the triode of the ECL86, and there's the other triode, and you can see that the second triode, V2A, which is there, is a cathodiene. What we got coming in here, we've got a 220k grid stopper on there. That looks like the volume. I think it is the volume, you know. Yeah, it is. That's the volume. So where's the input in? That's that stereo output socket, which I think is, if that's either the thing on the back that we've got, because the thing with this, it's for the record player as well. The schematic's the same, so we might not have that on this because it's not a record player, it's just a unit. So we need to be looking where our input is, where we're coming in, but we're going to be coming in on this triode stage here. We've got the volume there, and I don't think, unless we put that volume the other side of that, so where that 0.1 is, which will probably be leaking, 0.01 sorry, which will probably be leaky, bring the volume and put the volume in there. But the tone stack is also attached onto there. You can see this part here, treble and bass, so the tone stack's also tacked onto there. So I don't know about that, I'll have to have a think. It really needs to be the other side of that triode. So that's going to be the next job. And the other thing is we need to check all these coupling capacitors. So we've got one going into that second stage there, we've got one going into that pentode section there, and we've got another one, and they're 0.01s, and we may well leave those, just change them and keep that same value, 0.01. And we need to check the bias, which is this section here, I think. Oh no, and that's the that's like a Zabel network on there. Where's the cathodes there? Where's that? I think that 100 and, is that 120? 120, and I think that's the bypass cap there. I think that's where we are with those. I'll have to check that because I'm struggling to see this schematic. It's not, especially through the camera, so I need to study that. But anyway, we need to sort out it'll need a new cathode bypass capacitor on it because that'll be leaking guaranteed, and I bet those 0.01s are leaking as well. So yes, we may have a look at that. We may get the meter on those and just have a bit of a look. But anyway, that's the power supply finished and sorted out, so job's a good one. Right, I'm going to turn my attention to this section now. These two tubes there, the two ECL86s, and you can see it's all point to point on there. I've tested these ceramics. These are the coupling capacitors, and they actually test fine. They are not leaking at all. So I'm mulling over whether to leave those or not. And then we've got a couple of capacitors here which we know will be definitely leaking. Also, there's something else on here that I forgot to mention that I spotted. There was some sockets on the back, if you remember, that I took off, and I said I didn't know what they were for. They are a tape recorder there, and if you can see those two input, that winding, it's got a winding there. Now that's tape recorder. It doesn't, and I think that means that it actually records from there. We obviously don't need that, but that, you can see, it's got its own independent winding for that, which is interesting. So there we go, those have been removed. Well, that's been removed. Those two wires have been removed. And now if you look on the output transformer, you can see they're just vacant, unused. Right, we need to remove this bulb. And the reason for that is that it's acting like a current limiter, and it's making this amp a bit difficult to bias properly. So we need to remove that. What we're going to do, it's pretty simple to do, and also I realised that, which is one of my usual tricks, is that I haven't put a HG fuse in this amplifier, and it really should have one. So what we're going to do, if we look at this bulb here, you can see, if we just put a bit more light on, that's most squirrelable, you can see that it just basically goes from there onto the switch there. So what we're going to do is put in an inline fuse, and then this orange wire which I put in, I'm going to replace that with another fuse there, inline fuse. We can't, there's nowhere to mount any fuses on it really, so we're going to have to use inline fuses. So we're going to do that. You can see I've done quite a bit of work on it now, not quite finished it yet. There's another capacitor to change, a few other bits, but basically I've moved the volume and EQ to the other side of that first triode, and we've now created an input almost. We've got in fact, if I point him out, that pin there that you can see that's empty there, maybe you can't see it because that capacitor's in the way, so just move that out of the way. You can see there's a pin there, that is the input triode on that valve, and we are going to create an input there with a 1/4 inch jack socket, 33k grid stopper and a 1 meg grid leak, which is pretty standard really. And then we'll have the input jack. Now the other thing is where we're going to mount that input jack. That's another thing we're going to have to look at. That may be going on the front of this part here, and if we just hone the camera around, you can see that's the front, so it may be going on there. Not sure yet, but anyway, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go off, sort out this fusing problem, and then we shall return. Right, we've got the input jack on there, and I've just got the signal generator going through it, and yeah, we're cooking, and yeah, that is loud now. That really is loud. That is monstrous. So we've got loads and loads of gain. Let's see if this, I'm not sure about this, whether this EQ is working, you know. Yes, the treble's working, but I'm not sure about the bass. Turn that down. That will turn that off. There we go. So yes, that's it. That appears to be it. So the only thing we've got to do now is get it in the case. So where am I mounting that jack socket? So I've decided to have it on the back, and it's going to go, it fits nicely into there. It is a bit of a big hole, but it fits on there, and it'll be absolutely fine on there. Right, we've got this all back together, and we've got it plugged in. But if we notice, we just apply a little bit more. You can hear the speaker. the speakers, I'm afraid it's got a touch of the old scraping cone syndrome. So I've got this guitar on single coil, and it's not too bad, but and this thing is loud compared to what it was when we first plugged it in, if you remember. Tune when I bought it. I've said that before. That speaker now, we're on the neck pickup, even though we're on a single coil, it doesn't like it. So that's a little bit of a shame, but I half expected we'd have to swap that speaker. So the tone control is a little bit scrapey. That's happened since I put it back in the case, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. It works okay, it's just a bit stiff to turn. The bass, on the other hand, doesn't seem to do very much. But that's not really a huge issue. You're not expecting to get a lot of bass out of this anyway. It's very bright. So now we're on humbucker again. See, that speaker does not like it at all. I did think about putting a socket on the back to plug it into an extension cab, but then I thought that kind of defeats the purpose of what it is. it's a desktop amp. It's not going to be the best sounding amp in the world, as long as it sounds reasonable. It's something you can just plug into and warm up. There we go. That's the Bush AU31, which was a record player amplifier, and it's now a guitar amplifier. So I'm going to hunt round for a speaker for this, and I think I'm going to get one of those Visitrons. Now that there's room for two on the board, on the actual front panel, but I don't think we're going to get a speaker on this side because the tubes are in the way. But I'm going to order two anyway and see how we go. But that speaker has got to go. Other than that, this doesn't sound too bad. So when I've ordered the speakers, we'll do another video, and then we'll have another listen. But that's it for this one. So thanks for watching, and you all take care, and I'll see you in another video. Bye bye.